You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you have it, thechrisvossshow.com. The musical coming to you soon from the Chris Voss Show studios in Chris Voss Landia. We hired an opera singer for it. It's been a week. I'm still trying to get over it.
That was half yodel, half opera.
Wasn't it? Was it though? She did such a great job. She's like one of those classic people, and she's like, this guy's an idiot. What does he want? He wants me to do this. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing guest on the show with us today. He's super popular on Instagram and TikTokity, as we like to call it over here. He's an author and a comedian. So if you don't laugh during this show, I don't know, you might want to see a psychiatrist there. So there you go. We're going to be talking to him about his infamous books, and some of the works that he has done. He's been on the show before. I think this is his second or third time on the show. It's been a number of years, and we decided to have him return again. But in the meantime, as always, we have to do the guilting and shaming of the plugs at every show. For some reason, the advertisers have to have their way with us. So refer the show to your family, friends, or relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1 on the tickety-talkety, although we're not as cool as my good friend Brad, who's on the show today. But we're trying to be. We're working on it. We're trying to get some of his suave on the social media network there. Give us 5-star reviews on the Chris Voss Show iTunes account. He is an amazing gentleman. He's an author. He's a funny bone. I've known him for, 10 or 15 years now. He's funny as hell. And we have him joining us now on the show. Brad Gosse is a Toronto-based comedian and author. Over his career, he's penned more than 100 humor books, which is approximately 100 more books than the average Twitter user has ever read. Boy, that's a trend. Isn't it 101 more books? It's a negative. Comedy style. His comedy style leans towards dark, sarcastic, and edgy, with the delivery so dry it makes the Sahara look like a water park. Am I doing his stand-up here? Imagine Ron Serling telling jokes, and you're Rod Serling actually telling jokes, and you're pretty much there. On his social media, he has a social media following that surpasses the 1 million mark. Brad is what you call internet famous, in quotes, which is like being regular famous, but with more trolls. I am doing his bit, aren't I? Am I copying a stand-up? Is this legal? Is this copyright? I don't want to come up and get punched by.
No, it's all written by ChatGPT. You're good.
Oh, yeah. He is the mastermind between various projects like the card game Identity War and his own merchandise line. These aren't just side hustles; they're side empires. Well, if it makes the side bitches happy, then there you go. Welcome to the show, Brad. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I had a line that I forgot to put into the show. I was going to introduce you as, he will tickle your bone and he'll be funny. Wait, did I read that right? So there you go. I had a line for the show.
You had your own joke.
Yeah, on the delivery, but they're still there. So there you go. So Brad, give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs in the sky?
BradGosse.com. That's me. It's that simple.
There you go, bradgosse.com, and of course you can see he's killing on Instagram and TikTok. So Brad, give us like a 30,000 overview of what you do and how you do it in your words.
He's like, give me enough words so I can sip my coffee. Damn it.
Exactly.
That's basically
it's a stalling technique.
I understand. I've been a comedian for just over 4 years. It's a midlife crisis lane change, and it's been good to me. I've always kind of been funny. At least I think I'm funny, and a few other people agree. So I've been doing that for about 4 years, and turned out to be, I kind of stumbled into this niche of writing children's books for adults, and here I am, 139 books deep, and no sign of stopping.
Now, tell us what these books are about. What's the framing around them?
So the idea and like this started with the dumbest. It was the dumbest thing. I had this clip art company called Vector Tunes years ago, and I made some Facebook ads for Vector Tunes, and the ads were, you can do anything with our clip art, even children's books. And then it was, like, Why Daddy Hits Mommy, a kid's guide to understanding alcoholism, and it was just like so crass, right?
And you
And
had this successful company for a long time with Vector Tunes. You were killing it, and you were funny with that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that business, and that was kind of born out of my own need for cartoons for my own marketing, and the ads that I created, they didn't move the needle for the business at all. Like it didn't drive a single customer, but they all went viral. And then I was like, okay, I'm onto something different here, and you kind of got to follow the excitement, and so I made a TikTok video with the same book cover, Why Dad Mommy, and all I said was, and I just started on TikTok, and I was like, I might try a little comedy on TikTok. We'll see what happens. And I said, my name's Brad Gosse. I write books for children, but my publisher keeps rejecting them. Why do you think they rejected? And then I showed the cover of this book, and it got like 1 million views. And this was early days on TikTok. And I started reading the comments, Chris, and they were just out of control. It was like, why can't you read this book to us? Why can't we buy this book? All these questions came up, and I thought, okay, I could write this. It was just the cover, and I was like, I could write this. It's not rocket science. And so I sat down on a Saturday with my iPad and wrote out Why Daddy Hits Mommy in the style of Dr. Seuss. And then I read it on TikTok, and they were like, why can't you show us the pages? And I'm like, I got to make this. I got to do this now. It's got to be a book.
Yeah.
I knew how to self-publish. So I thought, okay, I'll self-publish this on Amazon, and the next time I do a video, I'll show the pictures, I'll show the pages, and I'll say you could buy it. And people started buying this book, man. And it was just like, each time I did an iteration of that video, I'd get like 1 million+ views. And then I'm like, this is working. Like, this is working. And so, then the next time I did it, I made sure the book was ready to buy before I did the first video. And then, so the second book was Don't Bathe with Uncle Joe. Setting boundaries with adults, and that one sold, and then My Racist Gran, and then it was just like one after the other, and they're really easy to make. I have a full-time cartoonist who works for me, and so I just kind of give him a list of stuff to draw, and it's one of those things that I stumbled on, but I've always been one to learn that if you stumble on something and it works, double down, triple down until it doesn't work anymore. And somehow it's still working.
It's still working.
It's still working.
100+ books in.
Yeah.
And so they're irreverent, they're snarky, they're comedy. It's interesting because I follow you, as you know, and make comments on your thing. And there's a lot of people who, boy, you sure hit their trigger button. They do not have a comedy bone.
No, I love that. Because what I've learned is, and you probably know this too with social media, the people who love you, they'll tell you that was funny, and you'll reply with thank you, and that's the end of your exchange.
Yeah.
But if somebody says you're grooming children, we're going to have 99 comments deep in that thread, and you're going to drive way more engagement to my videos than the people who love me. And the whole time you think you're just, arguing with me, but you're actually getting me more views, and you're making me, fractions of a cent every time we do that. And it's like, it's just, and I have a thick skin because I come from the internet world. I've always been online doing, and so I've learned to take a lot of abuse. And so for me, triggering people is like a sport. It's like sport hunting. And I love triggering people. Like, it just makes me smile from ear to ear when someone they don't understand comedy and they just hate me. It's like, it's the best feeling in the world when I'm misunderstood.
There's a lot of that going on the internet. For years, it was like 15 or 16, 17 years we've been on, I think since officially 2006 on YouTube. And for a long time, people, they write those trolling comments or hate comments, or they're going back and forth, having some nuclear war or whatever. And you're like, hey, thanks. You're insulting me and telling me how stupid and dumb I am, but you're actually getting me paid to tell me how dumb I am because I pick up, like you said, a penny or two.
Yeah. And you know what they say when you say that, right? They always say, oh yeah, enjoy the half a cent that I just made you. And then I always reply with, now you know your value.
Oh wow.
Right? Just like,
So give us some of your top titles or favorite titles that you've written, so we can tease some of these out to the people.
I just happen to have a stack right here because I always have them at my desk.
He
So,
has a stack.
Mom's OnlyFans, New Beginnings from Difficult Choices.
Oh,
That's a good one. One of my favorites is Race Wars. Mom and Dad's Swinger Party. This is the one that got me death threats.
wow.
Actual death threats. And one of my newest books is called I Love Corn.
And you have the artistry there. You have the Dr. Seuss like pictures, and then you put the spin on the words. Yeah, it's just brilliant what you do, and they're
Thank
funny. They're simple. Like, you're not writing War and fucking Peace over there.
No. All 139 books don't even come close to the word count of War and Peace. Like, they don't come close to the word count of any of your paperbacks. You know what I mean? It's just like they're 50-word books, 60-word books.
I feel like an idiot. Why did I write my whole book of all those words? I was like, hey, you got to go over a certain word count. And they're like, you're like, yeah. And so you go on, what's that random site that you go on where you randomly meet people on the internet?
It's called Omegle. It's like a chat roulette of video. It's like Zoom for strangers, right? You just you double click escape and you have a new stranger every time. And it's where I polish and practice my crowd work.
There you go. It's funny, you become internet famous. Like, you'll be sitting there just doing videos, either live or whatever on your TikTok, and these people know you. They'll be like, hey, it's the guy.
Yeah,
it's the guy.
It's the guy. It's the guy. It's the children's book guy.
Yeah, and they call people over and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I get stopped in the airport. Like, it's I love it. I love it.
And then you give dad advice too. I think that's pretty funny. I like the dad advice.
I love giving dad advice.
Yeah. Because
I feel like it naturally fits in with reading you stories, right? It's like you were getting a bedtime story, and then you get a couple years older, and now you're going to get dad advice.
Wow, there you go. So these books are killing it. They're funny as hell. You do have to have some comedy. And now you've kind of stepped into, over the last few years, I've been watching you into doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And how's that working out?
Horrible. It's a lot easier. I like to say I'm a stay-at-home comedian because, like, it's a lot easier here in my basement where I kind of control the environment. I can, if things aren't going well, I can just, delete the video or whatever. But, I've been doing a lot of stand-up. I love it. Audiences are mixed. Sometimes they love it. Because I go dark, right? I tell a lot of dark jokes, and like, I joke about things that people they're not sure if they are allowed to laugh about, and so they all kind of look at each other, and while they're looking at each other, they go, oh, because they don't know. And so, just like I like triggering people, I actually don't mind being up on a stage and listening to the entire audience just groan. And so, whenever the punchline of a joke is either, about homeless people or George Floyd, I'm going to get groans.
Yeah, it's hard now in comedy. I mean, a lot of Bill Maher and everybody, they talk about how hard comedy is now, where so much wokeness and people just don't have a funny bone anymore.
I'm okay with it. I'm happy to trigger. I really am. Like, it sounds silly to say it, but I really am happy. Like, I've watched back my tapes, where I'm doing it in front of a crowd, and I hear those groans, and I post them on social media, and people are like, "Oh, you bombed." I'm like, I didn't bomb. You know what bombing is? Bombing is when they're silent. That's bombing.
Yeah, that's
if I make them laugh a little bit or groan a little bit, that's not bombing to me. That's like, hey, I got a reaction. I made you uncomfortable. And even if that joke made you uncomfortable, the next one's going to make you laugh because you need to feel better.
You've got to find that you've hit the bottom and you got to come back up again.
Yeah.
The greatest comedians are the ones who can die on stage and then kill with it. Yep. Like, some of my greatest, funniest comedians. I'm thinking of the one that passed away recently. That was a Canadian one who used to do SNL's Norm Macdonald.
Oh yeah,
like Norm Macdonald. He goes on Conan and just fucking reads the paper.
Yeah.
People are going, "This is the driest shit ever." What is going on? and he just does that. And then for folks on YouTube, we want to encourage people to go watch us on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio on this, which most people consume, you've got to see Brad's background. You got a hell of a collection back there. What are some of your favorite pieces back in your collection?
It engages the children, which I love to do. It's a comic book collection, and then there's some coins back there. But my favorites are, there's a couple comics, and it's right off my left shoulder here. There's one there called Murder Clowns. That's mine, and I published my own comic, and I got them graded, and that was like the most fun thing.
Really?
Yeah. So I kind of like looking at, like, because I'm a narcissist, I love looking at my own shit. I mean, stuff. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like looking at my own shit. So I my favorite pieces are my own pieces.
Yeah. Well, they should be. I mean, you should love your work. But you've got all sorts of collectibles. I see an Action Comics back in there. One of those first like Superman or Spider-Man or something. I can't make up the thing. But I'm sure the kids love that too. That's a draw, the background.
When I'm doing those Omegle videos, or you're just discovering me for the first time,
Mhm.
the background will keep you long enough through a premise to sort of, make you like, okay, this guy's funny. So
Yeah.
it's like just interesting enough. And my favorite is, every once in a while I'll do an Omegle with a kid, and like some, teenage guy, and he'll be like, that's a green screen. Okay, go pick up the Superman or whatever. And then I go pick it up, and he's like, whoa, like
The internet's something else, but TikTok, that place is something else. It's crazy over there. I need to sign up as one of those vendors or whatever to sell shit like my book or something. But it's hard to stick out now. It's gotten so huge and stuff, but you're just killing it, eating up over there. What is some advice that you can give people that either want to start their own business, because I know you've started a lot of companies, or to be more successful in TikTok, to people that are out there, or social media for that matter? Because
nip slips are the best thing to do.
Nip slips.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to make sure your nipple slips out every now and then, and you'll go viral. You know what? It really is. It's a numbers game. I talk to so many comics and business owners too, who are like, oh, how do I kill it on TikTok? I know I've got a way, and I'm just like, okay, how many videos do you have? And they'll be like, well, I have 9 videos on my TikTok account. And I'm like, okay, you need 991 more videos. And they'll just look at me like I'm an idiot. I have over 4,000 videos on my TikTok account.
Wow.
And so I literally shit out content, and I do the same stuff multiple times. People don't realize that it is a game of, like, sometimes the same thing won't go viral.
Mhm.
It'll go viral the second time or the third time, and you're like, why did it? Like, I've had books, Chris, that are like 3 years old that I've read 4 times on TikTok, and then the 5th time I read it, it becomes a bestseller.
Wow.
So it really is just like a numbers game. You have to do it as many times as you can possibly, manage. And for me, that's a lot, because I just know that, content diarrhea is the key.
Content diarrhea. This is the title of your new book.
It's the title of my business
marketing book,
yeah.
your business book. Yeah.
It's my keynote speech that I'm going to do.
Diarrhea. And we've had people on the show that are, they've used the F word. They've used the S word on the title of their book. I mean, there's been some that I'm like, are you sure random, the big publishing house published this? This was self-published. And I mean, there's one guy who's got like a whole series of the F words and stuff in him. And I'm like, I'm using the F words because I think we used our allotted YouTube swear word time.
As long as it's within the first, as long as it's not in the first 2 minutes, I think.
Is that what it is? It's the first 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
First 30 seconds is hot, and then the first 2 minutes, and then after that, you're pretty good.
Dude, I got so screwed by that because for like 10 or 13 years, we swore it up on the show.
Yeah.
And then one day they decide, hey, we're YouTube and we just joined the Mormons and we don't swear anymore. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, all that old content? Yeah, that's all screwed. And you're just like,
thanks for helping us build the company.
Yeah, thanks. yeah. We're $1 billion company now. So what's the future hold for you? What any plans in the future? You're just going to keep making new books and pissing off more people?
Basically. One of the things I started doing this year, over and above stand up, is I started creating fake products that don't exist, and I went really viral with a product called
Oh, yeah,
Baby
that's
Mute.
right.
And it was basically, I used AI, which is unbelievable. Like AI, if you're a comedian, you're not using AI, you're an idiot. It's like, I was able to create this. I had this idea for like a mask that a baby would wear so that it would silence their cries, so they could still cry, but you wouldn't have to listen to it. So I used AI to create this image of this baby that looked kind of scared, and it had this mask over its face. And I bought babymute.com, and I used ChatGPT to write the copy. I told ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, I got this product. It's called Baby Mute. It muzzles your baby's cries on long flights and movie nights. Here's what I want to do. And it wrote sales copy for me. It did like long form sales copy. I dragged a bunch of images in, and I made this like really basic 1-page website. And within a week, it went viral on Reddit, viral on all social media platforms. And I put a phone number, I put a Skype number at the bottom of that website for the first like 4 weeks. And Chris, so I launched it on a Tuesday, and on Friday morning, every radio station in America was calling me.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they were
you
like,
won.
and they were just like, hi, is this Baby Mute? And I was like, yes, and they're like, well, tell us how it works. And I would say science, and I would just have these like stupid 1-word answers, and they loved it. And they just, they hand it up, and then they'd be like, okay, really, is this Brad Gosse, the comedian? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, we got so many questions for you, Brad. Thanks for joining us. And it went so viral that I was able to like leverage it into a blue check mark and all these other cool things that,
Oh, really?
like vanity things
Yeah.
that people want, on social media. And, I got a lot of good news coverage from doing that. And my publicist fired me that day. She was like,
oh, yeah,
she
that's right.
was like, this is not the kind of a client that I want to work with. And she fired me. And it was
Wow.
funny because we had just started working together. She had to return my money because I gave her a retainer, but she was disgusted because she was a new mom. And of course, you cannot even pretend to abuse babies when you're talking about new moms, right? They're just like, nope. So, she's like, this is not a good direction for your career. And I'm like, you're saying that, but I'm going 10x on this. Like I'm going to do this way more. So this is where we part ways. We're cool. Thanks for my money. So that's kind of been a thing for me. Is like, so I've done some other fake products. Like I did one called Toddler Shred, which is basically like your baby's fat and, needs to, here's some protein powder for your fat baby. I did, just a bunch of random, product ideas that were, things that don't exist. And that's kind of done well. And then I did a card game this year with another comedian, Jay Rainville. It's called Identity War. And the object of it's the most anti-woke game you've ever seen. The object of the game is to collect protected groups and become 3 protected groups. So you could win by being a gay disabled woman. Or you could win by being, trans, Muslim, indigenous. And so, and the artwork in the game is in my style where it's just like really, really, not appropriate. And that's done really well. We did a Kickstarter for that. It tipped the campaign and did some good numbers, and we've been able to sell a lot of copies of that. And then I'm also working on so I have this. We did a pilot for it. It didn't do as well as I hoped it would do, but I'm not stopping. For like a children's style adult show called Brad's Apartment, where basically, it's like a cross between Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street, but it's for grown-ups, so like imagine, arts and crafts time where we teach you how to put a condom on a banana or that kind of a thing.
Are you going to do the whole sweater switcheroo with the slippers?
No. I don't want to go. I don't want to imitate it. I want to. It's inspired by, but not a parody of. So the idea is just to have like this in this format. Like I have these cartoon characters that I created, like Becky the Throat Goat.
Mm-hmm.
And so Becky the Throat Goat, I'm like right off I could show it to you, but I spent like $2,000 on a Hollywood puppeteer to make a Becky the Throat Goat puppet. And so she's this like slutty goat that's in love with me. And then I have like a Cucumber Curtis, who like, is sad at the grocery store because nobody's picking him. And then he winds up inside your mom. And then I have Clip Clop, the racist horse. And he's like a former police officer and he's racist. And so he kind of, it's just, it's ridiculous. And I'm hoping to do more with that.
And it's comedy, but you're gonna play yourself in real life, and then you'll have the puppets like
Yeah,
Sesame Street?
I'm just me. I'm Brad.
So
You know,
you're there on Sesame Street.
it's just me. You know, I'm the
Yeah.
adult. In every one of those shows, there's puppets, and then there's an adult, and I'm the adult. But the idea is like, you know, like the pilot that we did is basically like, oh, the supervised visitation monitor is coming, and we need to clean this place up before she gets here. You know, that kind of a thing. Like I'm this like bad father who's like trying to get his kids back, but it never happens because him and the puppets are just such degenerates.
I watched when Eddie Murphy did Mr. Robinson live, and I missed the first season of SNL, but I caught it at the tail end and watched all that shit go down live. And I remember seeing that for the first time, and I was on the ground and I couldn't fucking breathe because I had never known that I had always wanted to see a parody of what was his name?
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers. I wanted to see that too. That's absolutely what inspired my favorite movie. I don't know if you've seen it. Is called Death to Smoochie.
I think I have, haven't I?
Robin Williams, Ed Norton, Danny DeVito. It's one of the best dark comedies ever made, and it's about a failed children's entertainer.
I'm not sure if I have.
Oh,
I'll have to pick it out.
Highly recommend it. That and Two Girls, One Cup are the absolute best movies you'll ever see.
There you go. People, we live in an age where comedy is so hard. And people just don't get it. There's all this woke and triggering and victim. We live in a victimhood competition culture. We talk a lot about that on the show with a lot of authors that come on now. And comedy is it's so important from a human aspect to look at who we are and our behavior. And it's such a great vehicle to look at ourselves. But Jesus, if we kill comedy, I mean, this world's going to get pretty dark. You touched on how you've dealt with some stuff with like PR agents, and I'm sure you've had to fight with TikTok and YouTube for your videos, probably Amazon too to publish some of your books. Tell us what that's like. How do you overcome that, or how do you deal with that when you're trying to be censored?
You just have to learn what you can and can't get away with. And I've learned, and I want to kind of touch on that because I feel like there is that sort of, competitive victim mentality that you talk about. And it's like they're professional victims and they need to dump their trauma and they need to tell you their thing. Right. And what I've learned is everybody has a thing, and they're like, they all say the same thing. I've been following you for 2 years and you're hilarious, but today you crossed the line. And I'm like, today? Like today? Like my first book was a man beating his wife, and today I crossed the line. Like, are you sure about this? And they're like, yeah, you made fun of crystal women, and I'm like, what? You're a misogynist, and I can't, this is where we part ways.
And now you're a misogynist.
Like, bye, loser. And I really think if you're going to be a comedian, you can't care. You have to not care about when you lose that fan. And I actually put it in my bios. I say, eventually I'll offend you, but we can still be friends. And it's kind of a thing because I know that's going to happen. I know at some point you're going to tell me I've crossed the line. And to me, there is no line. It's an invisible line that everybody has a different place for. And so I really think that, you got to learn, like TikTok is the hardest. So TikTok is, when you think about like the snowflake mentality of like, I'm easily offended by this and I don't want to see it. I need to rid the world of this thing that upsets me. That's TikTok. You're not allowed to talk about racism on TikTok. It's hate speech. If you're white and you talk about racism, you're a racist. So if I have a racist horse, he's banned from TikTok. Like, he's not allowed on TikTok. I have a book called My Racist Dog, banned from TikTok. My Racist Gran. I'm talking about racist people in a negative way.
Yeah.
But they're banned because the stories contain racism. And even though it gets to a place in the end where that person is bad, or that thing is, Clip Clop, the racist horse cop, gets fired at the end of the book, doesn't matter, because halfway through the book he tramples a black person. So, there's kind of this mentality that you can't even talk about these things anymore. And that's only on TikTok. So Instagram, I've never had a community guidelines violation on Instagram. The only time I get community guidelines, actually, that's not true. I've gotten them on Instagram, but they've only been for comments. So I've learned not to respond. Like if I respond to a comment on Instagram, I'll get it taken down. But if I just make a video, it's never come down.
Yeah.
YouTube, same thing. Twitter, same thing. But TikTok, I am right on the line with TikTok. So I've learned you can have 3 violations in 90 days. And if you have 4, you'll be banned. And so what I do is I take breaks, right? If I hit that magic, I'll appeal every violation, and I'm pretty good at learning what I can and can't do. So lately I haven't really had that many, but if I get one and I can't, and I appeal it and it doesn't win, that's fine. I keep going. And if I get 2 and I appeal it and it doesn't win, that's fine. I keep going. But if I get 3, I put them in my calendar and I'm like, okay, I've had 3 in the last, whatever days. I'm not going to post for another 20 days, or I'll post the most tame ass content or repost old stuff that I know I'm going to get away with until that 90-day period is over and I can kind of reset and start again. And then they're fine, right? It's just like, so understanding how this stuff works allows you to kind of play within the boundaries of each platform. But TikTok has the most people get the most offended there, and they report the most stuff there because they know they can. And when you talk about things like cancel culture, it's a real thing. There are Facebook groups of Karens who gang up on you at the same time and go report the same video in the same hour so that TikTok will take it down. And then I appeal it and it goes back up.
Yeah. So, I was going to say that there seems to be these bands of people that go around and shut you down. I've seen a lot
absolutely
of
the amount of and message to those people. I'm so grateful that you give me so much of your time because I can't imagine giving 1% of any hour of the day to anything that I don't like. Like if I don't like something, I just keep scrolling, man. Like I got no time for stuff I don't like. And the last thing I would do is put energy and effort into trying to remove something from the fire hose of content that's out there that I don't like. Because somebody must like it. So whatever, you know what? Put whatever you want up.
Yeah. And it's funny what you hit. There's so many different things you've written about and so many controversial stuff you can choose from. Recently, you wrote that book. You alluded to it. Mom's crystals won't save your pop. And you're just basically, I mean, my understanding is, if I haven't read the book clearly. I guess I should have. I have the audio book.
It's
Tell us
30
what
seconds long.
About.
The audiobook's 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Why did that I listen to it when I'm peeing. Why did that book hit some nerves?
I was surprised that it did, to be honest. Every once in a while I write a book and I'm like, this one's tame. This one's not going to ruffle any feathers. It's just funny to me. And maybe some other people will find it funny. And the idea, the concept behind the book is it's this woman that's big into woo-woo crystals and her dad's dying of cancer. And she thinks that, rose quartz is going to cure it. And of course the doctors are like, no, he needs chemo. And she's like, amethyst, and it's just like,
wow.
And I really thought nobody was going to attack me over this book, Chris. This book, I've been called misogynist. I've been called a woman hater. I've been called, people are like, and here's the funny thing, because TikTok, I have a book called Religion, Controlling People with Mythical Fear, and TikTok banned that book because it's anti-religious. Really? Yeah. So then a lot of people are like, you don't have the balls to do the same thing about Jesus. And I'm like, actually, I have that book. It's just been banned by TikTok. And they're like, what? So people have called it like, and like racist or misogynist or anti-religious, like they're like crystals is a religion. But my favorite it's always men, right? Who say, well, clearly you hate women because only women like crystals. And I'm like, well, that's a sexist comment because I'm sure there's men that think crystals are healing too. Like, so, but I didn't really expect controversy over that book. And then I got it. Right. So sometimes I write books with a low expectation of triggering, and then they trigger. I'm just like, this is the world we live in, that like Why Daddy Hits Mommy has less anger than the Crystal Bitch book. And it's just like, for some reason, you hit these nerves with people and they just get so agitated. And the funny thing is, when someone's agitated, their expectation is for you to get on your knees and beg for forgiveness.
Yeah, it's really.
And when you don't, they lose their minds. They're just like, what do you mean you're not apologizing? Because that's what they're expecting. They're expecting, because I kind of consider myself, and not that this is the right thing to say, but I kind of consider myself uncancelable because I don't have a job. I don't work for a TV
That's
network.
true. Yeah,
I don't have I don't have an agent. Anybody, like, I self-publish my books. I self-publish my videos. Everything's vertically integrated. There's nobody in between. You can't call up some network and have me fired.
You've had people probably try to do that.
Yeah. It's funny, when I used to have a company, I was listed on the website as I think they just thought I was an employee of the company. So they would call the Vector Tunes number, and I would answer the phone. And then they would be like, "Do you know that your employee Brad Gosse is a misogynist, and he is making hateful videos on TikTok, and he is ruining the reputation of your company?" And then I'm like, "Well, it's me, it's Brad."
Oh,
and then they're like, "Well, let me talk to your boss." I'm like, "Well, I'm the owner of the company. What can we talk about?" And then they hang up because they're like, "Oh, I needed somebody to fire this guy today, and it's not happening, so I'm going to go somewhere else and try and get him canceled."
you know what just struck me is those simps, those men that are hitting you, or just anybody really who are trying to troll you and abuse you and trying to cancel culture you. That's bullying. And these are the people who are usually against bullying. They're running around going, "We shouldn't bully."
Yeah,
but they're the ones
they're
doing
the biggest
bullying.
bullies. They're the biggest bullies.
Isn't that
Absolutely.
interesting? That just clicked in my head.
Yeah, they are.
Huh.
They're the biggest bullies because they literally gang up on you to try and make you lose your job. And to them, that is totally justifiable. Like, imagine thinking somebody said some words that hurt me. I need to take food off of their family's table. I need to starve that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really gotten out of hand, and it's really sad when men do it because the sim culture that we have, this incel sim culture, is something that I'm just fighting against, as you know. But to see them, their only strategy to be able to get women is to be able to try and stand up for just stupid stuff. Oh, you're going to offend women. We're gonna defend them, and women don't care about those guys.
That doesn't work, by the way. Yeah, that does not work.
So
it's just like
worse.
They think it's going to help their profile, but it does not. No women are coming knocking because you're standing up for them in a comment section on TikTok.
Has that ever been a thing? Is there any been, maybe you should do like a parody of that where you should have people sit down. You know how they used to sit down and do those like, it wasn't Harry Met Sally, and they had the side, I forget what they call it, but the side bit where they had the old couples, like, how did you meet and fall in love? And they're like, "Oh, we saw each other at Times Square one day." Maybe we should have that, like a parody thing where you're like, "How did you guys meet?" "Oh, he stood up for me in a comment, and I was like, what a great simp, and I married him."
I have a book called Daddy's a Simp, Don't Expect Much Inheritance.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
There you go. But yeah, it's really interesting. But this is why we need comedy more than ever. I mean, this is why it's so important, because we need to laugh. We need to look at things. We were talking about this yesterday on the show about great comedians who can take and look at all the sides of something that's maybe controversial, what we see is controversial, and be able to frame it so that we can go, "Hey, both sides are kind of stupid and weird, and why do we do that? And it's all hypocritical, and we're all kind of full of shit, and maybe we should grow the fuck up." One thing I was going to say too is, do you ever have people that come back to you that you offend? We talked about how there's that moment that you finally cross the final bridge with them. One thing I would find on TikTok is I would find people talking about me on TikTok with each other. And they'd be like, "Yeah, that fucking Chris Voss, he said that one fucking thing, and I hate that dude. Yeah, he's a real garbage person." You see, like, the whole back and forth on TikTok in public.
Yeah.
And what's funny is they'd always say the same thing. They always be like, "Yeah, but I still follow him. Why? Why do you still follow him?" "Because I want to see the car crash. I want to see when he hits the wall."
We can't wait to see what he's going to say next.
Yeah.
It's the Howard Stern effect, right?
Yeah. And you're like, you're still watching me. And I've had people convert. I've had people come back to me and go, "Hey, I finally got it. I finally got you. I finally got over it. Let's be friends again." Yeah. And so I imagine there's a whole host of people that you have that, maybe there's this.
They don't admit it. They won't tell me. I've never had anybody, 0%. Nobody has ever said to me, "Oh, I'm back." Mm-hmm. They may silently follow me back, but
yeah.
But I have read those on, like, I have a lot of negative comments about me on Reddit, and a lot of people will say that kind of stuff where they're like, "Well, I just continue to follow him because he's such an arrogant prick that I can't wait to see what he's going to say next." And I'm like,
And they're secretly laughing at some of the stuff. They just can't give you up. They're
No,
like
they can't.
ex-girlfriends.
Yeah, they can't give it up. They can't,
Just can't quit you.
and I love that. I love that.
It's
I want to be
funny how it works.
unquittable.
There you go. It's funny how that works. I mean, I just found one of my ex-partners, my ex-business partner from, geez, we were friends when I was 13 and we had a company for 13 years. His wife now, she was a girlfriend at the time we were in our companies, is still stalking me. I found her making comments on she's blocked on Facebook, but I found her making comments on the Facebook. And I'm like, 40 fucking years and you're what?
Yeah.
Get over me. I mean,
Apparently,
I'm not that great.
apparently she never wanted your partner.
Oh wow, dude. That's a bad image to have in my head.
It was all about you, Chris. It was all about you.
Yeah, she was one of those people I'd never date. There's not enough booze and drugs and alcohol and I don't know, crack cocaine and fentanyl in the world. So
that's where we're different. I'd bang just about anything.
well, you know, aren't you married now again?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, married guys. It's a married joke, people. So what have we touched on, Brad, that you do and we can promote for you before we go out?
What haven't we touched on? We've
Oh.
touched a lot of things.
You do in your books, evidently, or suggest in comedy. You know, what I was going to suggest is since you pissed everybody off with the crystals, maybe you should go on a crappy career run. Like, have you done one on MLMs? That'll piss some people off.
I haven't, but that
You should.
It could work.
Mhm.
I feel like it's one of those things that gets attacked a little too much. So I find like, you know, if everybody's piling on, it's not for me. But you know, maybe ayahuasca. But maybe
There you
know
go.
it's like that's the whole thing where you go to Peru and you get some poor people to make you high so that you can find yourself and go back to your first world problems. I think that's probably something that could be touched on. I actually have a book coming out in a couple of weeks called Girl Math. I don't know if you know about that trend.
No. Oh, wait. Is this the same as the Ho Math guy on TikTok?
I don't think so. There's there's Girl Math, which is the idea that if you buy something you return it, it's like making money.
Yeah.
Right. And so you just made money by returning something, or if you if you buy something for $50, but you get free shipping at $100, but shipping is $5, you spend $100 to save money.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen the TikTok people do it. I've had girlfriends do that to me too back in the day. They'd be like, yeah, I got 30% off and then I returned it. So I have 30% more to spend. And then if I go someplace and I get 50%, then I have 80% off to spend.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not the way it works.
That's not how that works.
But what was the other idea I just had for you? It wasn't MLMs. Oh, you should do one on the ketamine stuff. Have you done one on ketamine? It's getting really popular. There's some local places that popped up here that do ketamine therapy, and I know Elon Musk it's like getting huge here in America. And Elon Musk evidently is a ketamine cowboy, they call him.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never tried the vitamin K. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think I did once, but I didn't like it.
Yeah. But you don't remember probably.
Yeah, it was. I think I took too much.
I used to the bodybuilders, the male bodybuilder models for my modeling agency used to take Special K, and they would go shoot each other up with testosterone in the buttocks in the bathrooms, and I'm like, why do you tell people that you do that?
What's the ketamine for? For why would you take it for bodybuilding? I don't get it.
I think they used to call it Special K, so I think it's the same thing.
Special K.
And I don't know,
it vitamin K, but it was Special.
It was part of the horse tranquilizer cocktail they were taking, and I never knew why. But they would always come out with their shirts off and be all excited about everything they did in the bathroom, and I'm just like, you're shooting each other in the butt. Maybe you should do a book on that. They're like, yeah,
I would love to do one on testosterone because there's a lot of dudes taking testosterone right now. I feel like that's something worth making fun of.
There's a Liver King guy who had the whole conundrum. Have you seen that one guy that he's really young and he's getting some shit right now because he's kind of new on TikTok. And he's taking so much he can barely freaking breathe.
Oh,
yeah. And people are kind of throwing shit. They're like, dude, you're gonna kill yourself. It's great.
Where does it even come? If you're taking testosterone, are they synthesizing that, or are they taking it from like horses and stuff? Like, where's it coming from?
I don't know. I'm kind of I'm reaching that point where I've got to make a decision on it. The problem with testosterone is once you start, you can't stop.
And it makes you aggressive. Like I have a buddy that does it.
Yeah.
And he's at first couple weeks he was swearing by it, but he kept telling me I had these aggressive thoughts.
Mhm.
And like fast forward a couple years later and he's like, I fought a dude on the plane, and I'm like, what? And he's just like,
I'm on the no-fly list.
yeah, he got up from his seat too early and I told him we're gonna scrap, and I'm like, what do you do? What like you're a grown man, you're picking fights in the airport.
Yeah. Oh, dude, when I had my modeling agency, my girls would date the male models and they would have and every now and then, not all guys get it, but some guys get roid rage really bad. And that's my worry because I'm already aggressive enough as it is. And an asshole. So narcissistic tendencies. So I think I'd have a problem with it. But yeah, the roid rage is like so out of fucking control.
I love narcissistic tendencies, by the way.
Yeah,
I
they're the
feel like it's one of those things that's like everybody diagnoses us as narcissists, like men in general. Women, nobody ever says my ex-girlfriend is a narcissist, but everybody
Yeah.
says my ex-boyfriend, my ex-husband is a narcissist. And it's like
Yeah.
everybody's a mental health expert these days. But I feel like there's a healthy, like there's like a healthy amount of narcissism required for you to be good at your game.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you kind of gotta be like, I'm 100% honest here. I'm full of myself. I think I'm awesome, right? And I really don't like, but I also do have empathy for some, and but I feel like it's okay to be that way if you're cool with it. Like, people you hear a lot of people who are like, you have to detach yourself from your ego, and I'm like, no, I need to feed my ego every morning. Like I need to get up and I need to pour myself a bowl of ego and put it in my mouth because
I'm having some right now in my coffee.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
You got to feed it. If nobody who's at the top of their game is walking around with no ego.
Mhm.
Like it just doesn't, unless you're some Zen master guru guy. I feel like there's a healthy amount of ego required, and you need to kind of be at least 10-20% narcissistic to pull it off, because especially in comedy, some of my favorite comics are absolute monsters. They're assholes. And Bill Burr is a great example. I mean, his rants are epic.
Yeah.
And those are coming from a place of honesty. He's not having that written for him. That's coming from his own feelings. And, I recently quit smoking cannabis like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry too. I'm going through I'm having the worst time. Like people are like, oh, you're going to feel so much better. Dude, I'm having the worst nightmares.
Really?
Like I had I'm gonna tell you about this, okay? I had a nightmare last night, and who knows where this stuff comes from, right? But I had this nightmare that I broke into my elementary school, and then the alarms went off, and I started running, and I looked behind me, and I can't remember what they looked like, but somehow I know they were Mexicans. I was being chased by Mexicans, and I woke up screaming because they were beating me to death. I was being beaten to death by fictional Mexicans in my dream. And I'm like, these are the most vivid dreams I've had in like 20 years because I smoked cannabis for 20 years.
Had you had tacos that night or something?
No, that's the weird thing. I don't even like Mexicans. I mean Mexican food. And so it was this weird thing, right? Where it was like, I had this, and then I went to sleep and I had this dream that I robbed my own father, and I'm like, and I'm like, this stuff is so far fetched, right? Because
are you trying to get off the pot, or can you take edibles? I take edibles.
The edibles don't do anything for me. I wish they did, but they never have. And it's like it seems like I can take a ridiculous amount of them and have zero effect, and then one more milligram and I'm a monster. And there's just like no in between. And so it hasn't worked for me. And I do love smoking. Like every day I think about it. And like it's been 3 weeks, and I only quit because I had a bit of a chest infection, and I was like, okay, I need to stop because it's messing with my lungs. And then it was like a week went by, and the chest infection went away, and I'm like, let's try to sustain this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know where I was going with this, but I quit, and I'm still waiting for it to be good. Like I haven't gotten to the place where I'm like, I've had zero positive effects from this for whatever reason. It's just like it's been hell, and it's like I crave it. I'm having negative side effects from not doing it, and it's like it's really bumming me out. I'm like, where's the upside of this? Because I haven't found it yet. Maybe it'll happen in 6 months, but I don't know if I can wait that long.
Do you have an addictive personality? Did you used to smoke? Cigarettes?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's probably a connection there.
Yeah,
It's the whole-
I think I quit smoking cigarettes, kept smoking weed. I
Yeah.
think I traded one. You trade addictions, that always happens, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for my eating disorder to kick in.
Yeah, kick in, you'll be like 400 pounds like me, and then you'll be there.
I could pull off fat guy. I could totally pull off fat guy.
Don't do
Yeah.
it. I recommend it.
I got
Pick
fat
a-
guy vibes.
Get another addiction habit. Like, I don't know. Yeah, you ever see these people that they're always talking about porn addiction and they claim that they don't do porn anymore? Have you done a book on that yet?
No.
There's these coaches on TikTok all the time, and they're like, men should not watch porn at all. And I forget what they call it, but it's code for wanking the monkey.
Fap.
Yeah, you don't fap anymore.
No fap.
And they're coaches that do this. Like, I don't know. Do you ever want to have a conversation with the guy? Hey, you know what? Have you, spanked the monkey today?
Tell me the truth.
It's kind of weird. Like,
Tell me the truth.
I mean, I only have those conversations with my priest because
I feel like
Jesus talk.
monkeys are doing it all the time. Monkeys are constantly masturbating, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, once they figure out how to do it, they just never stop.
Yeah.
So I feel like that addiction is as old as time. I don't think that's an addiction. That's just self pleasure, and doing that as much as you can. I feel like there's no. I mean, at some point you're going to hurt yourself, right? So there's always a line,
Yeah.
right?
So,
There's always a line for too much masturbation.
yeah. But it's kind of extraordinary to me, and it's weird when I see women doing it. It's like, why are you giving men advice? You have no idea what goes on in our heads with our sexual attraction, and but yeah, there's these coaches that what gets me about them is they claim that they quit like doing it. Like,
Right.
I quit in 1985, and I haven't touched that thing since, except to go pee, and I'm like, come on, man. It's like with those preachers who always, say gay people are bad, and then they get caught with, a bowl of meth and some guy in a massage parlor, all the time.
in a cubicle in a men's room.
Yeah. Anytime you hear one of those preachers or somebody on the right talking about how
there's a glory hole. There's a glory
do
hole
that.
nearby.
Yeah, you're like, that dude's in the closet. It's just a matter of time till he falls out. The louder you roar on the thing. And so I always wonder about those guys. I'm like, we should be able to like look at people's browser history and see what they've been watching and stuff. So, I
feel like if you're like, and this is a male specific thing, right? But like, post nut clarity is like a real thing, right?
Yeah.
And like there are times where if you don't take care of that, if you don't take care of your need to do that, you're not able to focus on anything else.
Mhm.
At least me, right? So sometimes like I need to get on with the day, and I just need to clear my mind of all these thoughts of like, having, whatever 6 cheerleaders, whatever it is I'm thinking about. This is the first thing that came to mind. So
why not 7? Why 6? Why stop
come
there?
on, really 7?
I mean, be gluttonous.
I don't know, dude. I mean, there's only so many digits. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like without doing that, you're not able to get to the other side where you're like sometimes guys will be, and I've heard stories about this where when you're single and you're chasing some girl that you don't even really want, you're just sexually attracted to her,
Mhm.
and like if like and he'll be texting her, and it will be like furious texting. And she'll be responding, and he's like, I want you, I want you, I want you. And then he goes and jerks off. Right.
Uh-huh.
And then he just completely ignores her. And then she's like, what happened? Where did he go? And it's because he realized he doesn't want you.
Yeah.
It was all, in the digit. And like, and now he's over it because he took care of himself. And so it's like, there's this weird, I don't know. I feel like it's like without getting that clarity, I know there are times in the day where if I don't take care of it, it's all I'm going to think about all day, and I'm not going to get any work done.
The second half of the show's gotten real personal, Brad. I feel like we should have Dr. Ruth here to help us out with the show.
It's more of a Dr. Phil.
Orgasm.
It's more Dr. Phil than Dr. Ruth.
Yeah,
because I feel like I need to go to Turnabout Ranch.
I feel like I should be helping you with this. Like I'm your therapist.
I don't need help jerking off, but thank you. You walked right into that one. You walked right into that one.
Yeah, I have this image of I'm looking at your background. I have this image that the whole floor is covered in dry socks. So what's going on? Yeah, there you go. So it's so funny. You have so many books that you've written, and that I have to actually ask you before I give you an idea for a book. Have you done this yet? And that's how many books you've written. Isn't that amazing?
I love that.
Like I have to be like, hey, have you written a book about MLM stuff? And you're like, probably. It's just so funny. So, are you just going to keep writing books? Then you're going to keep looking for new material. Are you going to keep doing stand up?
Yes to all the things.
There you go. You
Until
recently
the-
in LA doing stand up with some
yeah,
famous
I did the
comedians,
Burbank Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But as a Canadian, I can't get paid in the US, so I have to go for free and on my own
Oh.
dime until I get my. I'm applying for a person of extraordinary abilities visa. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
So once I get that, I can get paid. But yeah, the last couple trips to the US, I had to get $0 contracts from the comedy club so that I could go through US customs and say, I'm bringing money in. I'm not taking any money out. And they're like, welcome to America, So that,
So
that
stupid.
that throws a wrench into the machine a little bit, right? Where, even when the clubs want to pay, I got to tell them not to. And then they're like, we love you,
Yeah,
like,
please come back more. We love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So, I'm taking a break from stand up because here's the funny thing, right? You
Mhm.
talk about TikTok and all this stuff. Here in my basement in Toronto, I can flip on my phone right now and I can go live on TikTok. And in 1 hour, I can be exposed to 80,000 people,
Holy crap.
pick up 3,000 to 4,000 new followers.
Now, hopefully this isn't while you're mid nut.
Well, it's post.
You said exposed,
It's all
so I had to
post.
go
It's all
there.
post nut. And I can get a huge amount of people to watch me in a short amount of time without any warning, without any scheduling of the live, just like flip it on, go live, no warning, no, emailing my list, none of those things, and pick up a massive amount of viewers, and sell a lot of books and get new followers, huge exposure.
Yeah.
Doing what I'm good at doing on stage for 50 people or 100 people or 300 people.
Yeah.
And so the like, even if I go to Toronto to do a stand-up show, which I do fairly regularly, and it's funny when in the Toronto comedy scene is kind of weird. They don't really like you, right? The attitude is, oh, you're famous on the internet, you're a loser.
Really?
They want comics who work at the bank, who come in and they've been doing it for 10 years and they're just, they hate the world. But when I go to the US and I post clips of me on stages in the US, the Toronto comedy clubs are like, hey buddy, come on back. They're like all this. It's like when you have a girlfriend in high school and then you go to camp and you bang somebody else. She just wants you more. So it's like, so you come back and these clubs want you and you have a good time doing it, but it's like, okay, so for me to go, like, I'm going to go do some gigs at the end of the month in Toronto, and I'll do like maybe 15, 20 minutes. Right. So I got to get in my car, drive to, the club 45 minutes away, pay for parking. I'll probably go out for dinner. I'll probably buy a drink at the club. I'm out a few bucks, which I don't care about, but it's like, I'm out this money and then I do this gig and I might get nothing, or I might get 20 bucks, or I might, depending on the venue, I might get 150 bucks. It's not a lot of money to do stand up.
I do it just for the laughs.
But that's the whole point, right? Is you do it for the live laughs, but the net result is exposure to maybe 50 or 100 people that have never heard of me. Yeah. Or I can flip on that live, and in the amount of time it takes me to drive to the comedy club, I can pick up 3,000-4,000 new followers. That makes more sense to me. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but you can't compare them. But the problem is I am comparing them.
Yeah.
And, it's a question of return on investment of time. Mm-hmm. And so, I do both. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. On the day that I'm going to when I go to Toronto and do a club, I'm going to go live on TikTok that day anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's, I do both, but the amount of effort that I put in here in my basement is way more financially lucrative than the amount of effort I put going on a plane to Los Angeles.
Yeah. The ROI of time. I've always wondered about that about comedians because they spend a lot of time flying and going from city to city, and sometimes you play some weird places and some backwoods places and stuff, and but if you can kill it on TikTok, like why not?
Yeah.
There's a lot of comedians doing well with their own podcasts. Some famous comedians, they've got HBO shows, but they're actually probably doing better on their podcast
Oh yeah,
than they
absolutely.
are doing the thing.
They get
So,
way more money to read a promo
yeah.
than their entire Netflix special will pay them.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't know, there's one comedian I know, I won't mention, but his podcast is actually funnier than his stand-up. At least I think so.
Oh, you got to tell me who
He's
that
got
is.
he's got his wife on. You may know. He
Oh,
just
Tom
came out.
Segura.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, dude, he's one of my
Yeah.
favorites, dude.
His wife, having his wife on there and them going the banter back and forth is what makes
Yeah.
it funnier.
Yeah.
Because his wife's a comedian too.
Yeah, Christina.
Yeah.
Dude, I think they're two of my favorites. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm not gonna lie, I think Christina's hot. When she gets dressed up like a goth girl, oh my god. Goth Christina.
Like we know what you were into in high school.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I can see how she was really hot a long time ago, but she's cute now. But yeah, I watched part of his stand-up and I just like, yeah, it's good. I'm not really, it wasn't vibing with me. I don't know if it was the timing or what, but yeah, his podcast, I love it. And of course it's on TikTok and killing it over there. So
Yeah.
there you go. So final thoughts as we go out, final pitch to the audience to pick up your books and everything, Brad.
Pick up my books and everything.
Or else.
Yeah. Look for the stuff that's going to offend you. Look for the stuff, that's going to make your mom use the C word when you open it, when she opens it on Christmas Day. What?
Give it away at Christmas. There you go. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. One of my books last year was called Mike Hunt Smells Like Fish. And Chris, that was another one of those books I didn't think. I was just like, my cartoonist was like, hey, I need some extra work. And I had this, dude, I sat on this idea for 18 months. This is how stupid I am. I sat on the idea for this book for 18 months and it sold better than all my other books combined.
Oh, yeah.
I published it in September last year and it got to number 40 on Amazon, all products.
Wow.
And just sold a stupid number of copies. I thought I was doing well, and then I published that book, and I was like, wow, this changed everything. And, people bought it for one reason, because they wanted to make somebody open that book and say the words Mike Hunt at Christmas.
You see people that do that on YouTube and TikTok for years, where they'll go into the Starbucks.
Yeah.
And they'll have them put some sort of thing that ends up being that. Comedy just never fails. And if you can't laugh in life, people, please seek mental help.
Here's one more. My clit shouldn't be hard to find.
Hopefully there's some instruction there, because I know a lot of guys that need that help, evidently, from what
some don't even think it's real.
Yeah. Anytime I'm dating women and you hear about their exes and their ex lives, and you're like, wow, how did you stay married for 20 years?
Well, they're just telling you that because they want you to try and find it.
Oh, I find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have been single all these years and happy for nothing. I know how to find my way.
I know where the parts are.
I know where the parts are. I read some books early on. That's the real key. They have those anatomy books, and then I always subscribed to Playboy when I was young. So there was that. But yeah. So it's been fun to have you on. Let's not wait. I think it was like 7 years ago we had you on the show.
Last time I did your show, the entire country of India was trying to kill me. Do you remember that?
I don't remember. Oh yeah. That's right.
They stole one of my some Facebook page that's like super popular in India with like 10 million followers or something. Stole my graphics for their logo.
Oh.
And I contacted them to take it down, and they were like, no. And so I reported them, and then they got their Facebook page shut down. And then they were like, please, sir, please tell Facebook to put our page back up. And I was like, no. And then they went to some other page and they told and dude, it was like, you want to get canceled or you want to go viral, piss off the entire country of India. And it was I remember you and I talked about it was like kind of at the peak of when it was happening. And I was like, wow, this is like a crazy time in my life for me to do a podcast with you. And I was just thinking about it the other day. I was like, wow, I'm gonna do Chris Voss show. And the last time I did it, I was being like completely like inundated, like it was coming from everywhere. Like,
Uh-huh.
It came from everywhere. And so I think it was like 7 years ago. It was like 2017.
November 21st, 2017.
There it is.
There you go. So what hell is it? 6 years? Something
Yeah,
like
6
that?
years ago.
Holy crap. Yeah, you're up for the 6-year anniversary there in another month. Well, it's been wonderful to have you, and I'm glad to call you a friend, Brad.
Yeah,
We have the same
likewise.
sort of dark humor and narcissistic, probably dark triad tendencies. So there you go. We like pissing off people. I have people write me about some of the stuff I post on Facebook, and they're like, "You have a lot of anger about simps and what men are doing," and I'm like, I really don't. I just write stuff to piss people off and pissing and entertaining. Like, I'm just here to entertain. Like, half the stories I tell, I'm just like, I'm not angry about them. I just think they're funny stories.
Yeah.
I'm like, look how stupid this is. Look how hypocritical this thing is. I mean, most of my stuff is about hypocritical stuff. And
People
like,
mistake anger for when you point out stupidity, they mistake it for anger.
it's so hard because I'm like, do I need to write it different or did they just not get it? And that's why all my stuff is private now because most of my friends get me. And they're like, yeah, he's doing his shit stuff. And I do try and incorporate that comedic thing where as a comedian, you do sprinkle some truth bits that are going to hurt. They're going to be painful. Who's the comedian he's gotten canceled? He's tried to get canceled a few times on his Netflix because he talks about
Chappelle?
transgenderism. Yeah, David Chappelle, and he's so good at that. Making he'll bash everybody. He'll go the full circle on everybody involved, but he'll jab you with some stuff, and
Chappelle
it'll
has
hurt.
2 things that I don't have.
Mhm.
One is blackness, and 2 is fuck you money. Right? And when you have fuck you money, you can say whatever you want.
That's true.
Right?
That's
He
true.
lives in Ohio. Nobody's coming for him. And so he can say whatever he wants, and he's got enough money to keep him and his entire generations of his family in comfort forever. That's I aspire to have the blackness.
There you go.
And
And the money, and the fuck you money. I could.
Yeah.
We'll just keep you and I working on that, so we'll get there one of these days.
Yeah.
There you go. So thank you very much, Brad. It's been wonderful to have you on the show. I'm glad to call you a friend again. Keep keep pissing people off. Damn it, a little bit of narcissistic and dark triad and Machiavellianism will get you laid.
Right.
So thank you for coming on. Give us your .coms one more time too, so we can get that out.
It's bradgosse.com. That's how it's spelled. Just like that, Brad Gosse.
Holy
Gosse.
Get the stickers and everything.
I got stickers. I got merch and everything.
Get the merch. Just get the merches.
I got my own logo.
There you go. So thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Get them as smart as you are. That way, when you go to Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner, you can you don't have to put up with their stupidity. Plus, order some of Brad's books and give them away at Christmas. What a great thing to have. I'm gonna buy some for my coffee table. So when dates come over, they're like, "What are you reading there?" And then they'll leave.
Literature.
So, and maybe I want them to leave. That's the whole point, because there's a certain point of that relationship where you're like, it's time for you to go. It's been a week.
Yeah.
So there you go. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Are these on Goodreads, by the way?
Yep.
There you go. Chris Voss on TikTok and Chris Voss on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.